I laid the foundation.
Hey, Shalom, guys. All right, we are back with part 2 of the Cross X. I am joined again by God's friend Jesse, Let the Bible Speak 8250, and John Lawson of Kingdom Seekers. Shalom, guys.
Shalom.
Now, the previous episode, we went over Elijah's cross exam. We had a lot to talk about. I kind of wanted to separate both of them just to kind of take, I don't want these episodes to be too long for you guys. But Jesse was sharing with John and I something about the whole omnipotent of what was exactly given to Jesus. I thought it was really good. So, Jesse, you have the floor. Floor is yours, man. Go ahead.
All right. So in Matthew chapter 28, verse 18, it says, all power is given to me in heaven and earth. And when we hear this all power, we usually think every power. Jesus has all power in existence, and some can actually conflate that with omnipotence, even though an omnipotent person can't be given power. That shows there's a power that person doesn't have. But like something that I've been exploring recently that I had forgot about is in the Greek, does that adjective pos, which is translated as all, it's right here, it's actually posa because of the way it's being used, does it have a definite article? And the reason this matters is because if it has a definite article, it would be translated as the whole. If it's in attributive position, make sure you can see that. If it's in attributive position with a definite article, it's the whole of whatever it is it's modifying, the entirety. If it's in predicate position, where the predicate position is basic, there's rules you guys got to learn about whether or not it has a definite article before or after the noun, whether they have both definite articles, this and that, or if it's in the if it has no article, it means every. But what I really wanted to bring up is that it does not have the definite article, which means it doesn't mean the whole. So the entire power in heaven and earth was not given to Jesus Christ, which is why in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 27, the Son has everything put under him except the one that puts everything under him. Yet in verse 28, he is subject to that one that put everything under him, showing that he doesn't have the entirety. Now, something else that is really interesting, if you guys would just do, and I'll be brief, if you do a little bit of homework on that Greek word exousia, that has to do with permission, because it comes from a verb that means to be permissible, to be allowed. So every permission was given to Jesus in the heaven and earth. A permission was given to him. But this isn't talking about the entirety of all power and existence or ability. So that's what I was trying to share with you guys earlier. I didn't really expand that much on it as I just did. Yeah.
No, yeah, dude, I appreciate that. Hey, at the end of the day, iron sharpens iron. If you have any nuggets, any of us that we can, give to our brothers and sisters to help them, better understand the text better, that's definitely a win-win. So, no, thank you for that. Seriously, I appreciate that, Jesse. All right, so now we're gonna go into Mike's. Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to check. I'm kind of curious about John 5:19 now, about this, what he sees. Okay, the word isn't all there. Oh, yeah, there it is. The Father shows him all things. Let me look at that, see if there's a definite article, which would mean that the Father shows him everything or not. And there isn't. Look, there's no definite article for Panta, which means the Father doesn't show him everything that he does. That definite article and lack of matters when with this adjective pos. Ooh, that's going to hurt them.
we got our non-scholar Oops, I removed him. We got our non-scholar friend Jesse. I love it.
I'm actually a scholar. I'm just not a certified scholar.
You're
There's
not a
difference.
certified scholar. No, yeah. Love it. Okay, so now that was cool. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. We're gonna go into Mike's cross X and man, let's go to the slaughter.
Mike's time to cross-examine Elijah. As soon as you start speaking, Mike, the 20 minutes will start.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and share some verses here. Let me share the screen? Awesome. Okay. Elijah. In John chapter 8, verse 12, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. Who's the light of the world here?
Jesus.
Okay. In Matthew 5:14, he says, you are the light of the world, a city set on a hill. Who's the light of the world in Matthew 5:14?
He's talking to the believers here.
Okay, so just because two persons share a title doesn't make them the same being, right?
I mean, so in this verse in Matthew chapter 5, verse 14, he's speaking about like letting their light shine and proclaiming the gospel to all of the ends of the earth. When Jesus is saying, I am the light of the world, whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of the life, he's making a claim about his like divinity. So these are two completely different like phrases.
Oh, I told.
So when Jesus says, I am the light of the world, this is talking about his divinity. But when Jesus says that we are the light of the world, it doesn't mean our divinity, because Jesus is already God and we're not God.
I mean, it says
Cool.
right there in John 8:12, if we play again devil's advocate, to have this light makes you divine. Then the second sentence right there, whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light. So
You know,
they will have divinity.
Yeah, no, John, yeah, that's exactly it. And you know, this is honestly like this is why people are leaving Trinitarianism. And this is actually what bothers me too, because I wish Trinitarians were at least honest about their own holy book. Because one of the sad things is sure, people who are Trinitarians, they will leave and they'll become biblical Unitarians. Cool, amen. But you know what? There sometimes they just say, you know what? I'm tired of this crap altogether. And they leave the faith and become either agnostic or atheist, or they even become Muslim. Right? Because look, they're thinking to themselves, I'm already being lied to about this, you know? And either, you know, they'll come to biblical Unitarianism and they'll still value the Bible, or they'll say, you know what, the Bible is garbage based off of what other people have taught them, and they throw away the faith altogether. You know, like a really cool thing was Matthew Jansen. He even said in one of his talks that we have many people that come to the congregations and sometimes they leave, right? And he says, hey, that's fine, but don't leave Yahweh. You can leave this congregation, but don't leave Yahweh, right?
You know, can I piggyback off what you just said?
Yeah.
Recently, there was an event, a conference within the Torah movement, and they made a very bold and public statement that you need to accept the divinity of Yeshua as part of the Trinity. Then they go on, one of the people on this conference before it started, right? So they're just kind of getting people ready. Pretty much said, if anybody rejects Yeshua's divinity, it's the stepping stone towards rejecting Yeshua altogether. It's quite the opposite. Every anti-missionary that was once a follower of Yeshua was a Trinitarian, and one of the main reasons why they leave the faith is because of the Trinity. The Trinity is what is one of the main stumbling blocks to lead people, many people, into anti-missionary and anti-Paul rhetoric. And I don't see it in the Unitarian side. I mean, sure, you could find one or two, whatever, but I just don't like it when it's put on us. We actually are giving you answers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, apparently Elisha doesn't understand messianic prophecy, because the reason Jesus said this to the disciples or to Israel is because if you were to go to Isaiah chapter 42, the servant that God puts his spirit on, In verse 6, God said he would give that servant for a light to the people. But is that to Jesus alone? Not according to Paul. Because in Acts chapter 13, verse 47, Paul says, "For so has the Lord commanded us," plural, saying, "I have set you to be a light of the nation, that you should be for salvation to the ends of the earth." And what he's actually citing is Isaiah chapter 49, verse 6, which in my Bible is translated as, "And he says, it is a light thing that you should be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will give you for a light to the nations, that you may be for salvation to the ends of the earth." And verse 3 says God is talking to Israel. So Elijah doesn't understand the role of the Messiah nor of Israel, and that's why Jesus makes this claim. That's why he says it about the disciples. And I'll say this last thing real quick.
Yeah.
In John chapter 8 and 9, you see three things. Jesus claims to be the light of the world. He's going to let the prisoners go, and he came to open the eyes of the blind. That's the same thing said in Isaiah 42, verse 6 and 7, that the Messiah would be doing. So this isn't a special light of the world. It's the same light as Israel will be to the world.
And I think too, like even going with that. So there was I did a movie review on the new David movie, the animated one that came out last year in December. And there's a song that's like follow the light, right? And it's really cool because I was actually looking up all the different psalms that talk about like following the light and who is the light. And there's actually a lot, and it's all referring to God, which this makes sense, right? If God is light, right, that you had to separate the light and darkness. There's a lot of metaphoric language that's there in the beginning of Genesis. Separating the light and the dark, separating the sheep and the goats. Like there's a lot of these things you can compare it to. If God is light, right? Jesus is like the image of the Father, right? So Jesus would be that light. So then if we're also imitating Jesus, we would also be that light too. It's not talking about like an essence, a nature, or energy, or anything like that. It's almost like you can equivocate more to the goodness that comes from it, the light, the pure, the the holiness. That's what the Father is. The Yeshua follows that perfectly. And if we're going to be followers of him, we're going to be followers of Christ, right? And so that we will also have that light. This whole thing, and this is just annoying because here you have Elijah literally splitting it up. Well, in John 8:12, when Jesus says I'm the light, this is talking about his nature because he's God. But in Matthew 5:14, when it says that you are the light, it's just talking about the people. Like they're not divine because humans aren't divine, and you're gonna upset people. Go ahead, John.
He just needed to answer the simple question, which is that Yeshua and other people can share the same title, and it does not make them the same nature.
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes. But he can't because Elijah already knows. Elijah already knows. I already know. You guys already know. Everyone already knows what Mike is doing here. Mike is trying to show that just because they have the two things, you can't say that they are then the same thing, right? We're not going to say that we are Yeshua, but we're a different person within the one Yeshua, right? we can't say that. So yeah, Mike's already setting it up where just because a specific title is given to Jesus that is then given to us, it doesn't mean whether we're the same thing. But then Trinitarians do the exact opposite. If a title is being applied to God the Father, that's also then being applied to Jesus. That means that they are the same essence, nature, the same God, different person. This whole thing, when it's just a very bad and disingenuous argument.
Totally agree. But the point is that you did the same thing jumping between books to prove that they're the same being. So Jesus is called the light of the world. We're called the light of the world, but we're not one in being with Jesus, right?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So two people can share a title. That doesn't make them the same being. Okay. In John chapter 5, verse 43, Jesus says, I have come in my Father's name. What's the Father's name?
That name means power, authority, teaching, reputation.
I agree, but what is that name?
Well, when he says that, when he says I have come in my Father's name, he's not talking about name nominally. He's talking about power, authority, reputation.
Okay, so then when it says baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, is that a name? Is that a real name? Or is that
That's
also
talking-
not nominally
That's
referring
talking
to name?
about. Yeah, it's talking about one power. That's how we know that the three persons have the same nature, because name there is talking about one power, authority, reputation.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. So you still agree, though, that it is the Father's name. It's the name that represents that power.
The name that represent, you're using name there, like when it
Does
says I
it-
have come in my Father's name, you're using name twice, because your name there also means power there, according.
Does the Father's name refer to his power and authority?
I mean, sure. There.
Okay, so what is the Father's name that refers to power and authority? What is that?
Are you asking like the nominal name?
That's what this refers to. The
Oh,
name can
yeah.
represent power and
Yeah.
authority.
Yahweh?
Dude, really? It took him that long to answer a freaking question. What is the name of the Father? It's however you want to chop it up, Yahweh or Jehovah. Like this is just I don't get it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jesse. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I could probably wait a moment, but it doesn't matter if they want a special plead and say that's just the Father's power.
No,
I'll
right.
let Mike finish. I'll let Mike finish making his argument, and if he doesn't say what I want to say, I'm going to say it.
Okay. No, yeah, like I get it. Like there's, what's it? Isaiah 43:11, or 43:7, excuse me. Anyone who comes in my name, I have established him, set it up, anything like that. So we see Jesus coming in the name. Well, what name is that? Right? It's Yahweh, Yahovah, Jehovah, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, whatever you want to say, but like it was really cringe how he just would not answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Father's name is Yahweh, and that represents his power and authority. So here it says, if another comes in his own name, him you will receive. So do you agree that the Father's name is not his own name?
That what? Do
That's
I
what-
agree that what?
That's what this says. He says, I've come in my Father's name, and you don't receive me.
Mhm.
If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. Do you agree that Jesus is saying that the Father's name is not his own name?
That the Father's name is not his own
The
name.
Yeah.
question
yeah,
can be
because-
better. The question can be better. Elijah, I believe he's genuinely confused because
I'm
Mike's
a little
implying.
confused too.
Yeah, Mike's implying Jesus' his own name, but it sounds as if he's saying the Father's name is not the Father's name. The question could be a little bit more precise to help him out.
Yeah, because the argument from Elijah and Trinitarians is that the name Yahweh belongs to all three persons of the Trinity. But the verse 43 here says, I have come in my Father's name, making himself distinct from the name Yahweh. And so then he goes on to say, if another comes in his own name, you will receive him. So he's just asking, if you're claiming that all three persons are Yahweh, then how can he come into his Father's name? It's proof that it's not his name. It's his Father's name.
Yeah, and that's where I was waiting a moment because it's okay if they don't say Yahweh, Jehovah, or whatever. You can call it authority, but if the Father's authority isn't Jesus' authority, how can he be God?
Right.
I could see where Elijah's reading it. Elijah's reading it saying, if I have come in my Father's authority and you don't receive me, and if another comes in his own authority, you will receive him. That's how Elijah's reading it.
Right.
But
Yep.
if you want to get through to him, you got to see how he's reading it and maybe connect the gap.
He says, if another comes in his own name, analogous with
What do you
in the Father's name.
what do
So
you think his own name like is referring to there? I'm confused as to what you're trying to pick out.
the same thing, his name that represents his power and authority. Okay,
And
so do you agree that Jesus is saying that the Father's name, which represents his power and authority, is not his own name?
that he gets these things from the Father? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So we've established that you can share a title. It doesn't make you the same being. Jesus can bear a name. That doesn't make them the same being. All right, we'll take this off.
You didn't prove that at all.
Yeah, yes, I did. Will you agree? You at least concede to that as a possibility in your yes. All right. So now let's go ahead and bring up. Make sure. Come on. So many different verses.
I know what it's like. That 5
Okay.
to 10 seconds
You know what?
feels like a year.
I'm gonna have to share my screen again. Thought I had to find it. It's right here. All right. So is some sin worse than others, Elijah?
Mm-hmm.
So then how can all sin be infinite if some sin is worse than others?
So, in regards to this, we make a distinction between infinite in regards to the object of the one who is offended, and infinite in regards to the malice of the act itself. So, in regards to the object, all sins has a sense of infinite because the dignity of the one who is offended is infinite. But in regards to the malice, there are different degrees in regards to the sins that are done. So, like the malice of the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit obviously has a higher malice in the heart of a lie or to steal.
Okay, so can God be just if he's punishing unequal sin equally?
What?
Can God be just if he punishes unequal sins equally?
Can God be just if he punishes unequal sins equally? I don't think that God does that.
Right. So answer the question then. Would God be just if he punishes sins which are unequal as though they're equal?
Right. So would God be just if he gave the death penalty to someone who stole something, a piece of candy that cost 25 cents versus someone who killed 20 people? Or would God be just for that? Obviously, no.
And growing up in church, I mean, I've been taught that all those sins equal the same punishment, which is an eternity in hell. So from
Right.
Elijah's perspective, that's how he sees it. So I don't know why he doesn't want to answer the question.
I think he's a little nervous too. Honestly, I feel like he's a little nervous because I think in the back of his mind is like, if I answer yes, what can Mike say that will like get me?
Yeah.
Right. So I think he's just kind of nervous right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Leviticus chapter 5 shows that there are sins that don't equal unalivement that you could offer transgression sacrifice for certain sins. Yeah.
There would be equal in regards to the dignity of the one that is offended. But in regards to the gravity of like their sin and their punishment, I don't think that everybody has the same punishment. So.
Thank you very much. So you just totally dunked on yourself that because God is infinite, that every sin must be infinite. All right, awesome.
I don't think that you heard what I said.
Yes, that's exactly what you just conceded.
I just told you
to.
that things are infinite in regards to the object of the one that is offended.
Yeah,
so all
I heard you. But you said,
yep, be infinite in regards to that. But in regards to the malice of the act, those things are different.
No, now you're changing it. You said the punishment. You said the punishment. The punishment would not be equal when the sins are not equal. That proves that it is not infinite because God is infinite alone. Yeah.
No, so
okay. Here, you can respond to that, and then I'm going to move on. But yeah, that's what just happened.
What Scripture states is that in regards to the punishment, everybody who sins, right, is going to have this eternal damnation. Right, but the pains of hell can vary depending on the malice of the sins that were committed. But in regards to the sin and the punishment that should be offered for said sin, it's still going to be eternal damnation.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because I see a few people mentioning things in the comments and also just listening to these two talk. What Elijah's saying and what most Trinitarians are thinking from this perspective and paradigm, it's not about the punishment on this earth at this time in this age. It's the punishment after you die is eternal. So eternal punishment, regardless of the sin, it's eternal hellfire. Not like, hey, you get the capital punishment today or in this lifetime. I hope that made sense.
Did Jacob use some dishonest methods, getting a birthright and stealing a blessing? Isn't that a sin? Come on, man. That's deception, right? That's stealing, right? That birthright right wasn't his, or no, the blessing wasn't his. He took advantage of a man's blindness to get a birthright. But what does Jesus say? God is the God of the living. He says, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we see that Jacob, he used dishonest means to get a blessing, and yet he's still alive. Something interesting to think about.
So Hebrews 4:15 says, we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin.
Amen.
Question, can God sin?
Nope.
Okay, could Jesus sin?
Nope.
Okay, so then how can Jesus be tempted as we are in every respect if he literally cannot sin?
Because temptation is brought to fulfillment in 3 stages: by suggestion, delight, and consent. So insofar as we are suggested the things that bring us to sin, Jesus is able to be tempted like that in every respect. But Jesus is never able to take delight in sin, nor is he able to consent.
Okay, so what I want to do here is pull up. Okay, so it's going to be, what's it, Matthew 4?
I guess what I would say to Elijah there is, if he was tempted in every way, then it would include every category he listed off, the 3: suggestion, delight, and consent. And if you say, oh, he wasn't under consent or whatever he said, then he wasn't tempted in every way.
Right.
What's it, James 1, I think, verse 16? Matthew 4:1. Hope you pause my time looking for this. Maybe it's 17. Okay, share my screen again. Okay, Jesus was led into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. If we look up this word in the dictionary, okay, you're going to find out that this refers to entice to improper behavior, to tempt. But in James 1:17, did I get that wrong? No. Is it 15? Oh my
13.
gosh. It's give me a moment. Let me look this up. Cannot be tempted by evil. Isn't it right here? 13 and 14. Okay, excuse me. 13 and 14. I was close. Okay. So in James 1:13, when it says, for God cannot be tempted by evil, it literally means that you're untemptable, without temptation entirely. Can you show me one lexicon that will say the same thing you just said about the 3 stages of temptation?
Yeah,
Just
so
one.
when it's brought up, like in regards to the lexicon, I don't have one on hand. I'm not going to share my screen right now. I'm not going to waste your time like that. But in regards to temptation, when he's brought into the wilderness to be tempted, that is still external temptation. Like when the Old Testament says that the Israelites tempt God, right? That's just to entice or to suggest something, but that doesn't mean that they're internally moved or anything like that.
Okay,
Hey, hold on a second. So if you guys would have read the next verse in verse 14, what he has on the screen, but each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. So James actually defines what it means to be tempted right there. When
Yeah.
you're lured and enticed because there's something in your heart that shouldn't be there.
And honestly, I think this also, Jesus kind of tells on himself with this. And I brought this up, before in our past reviews, but right before he gets arrested, right? Like, he calls out to God, his Father, and he even says, like, Father, if there's another thing that I can do, like if this cup can pass from me, please, right? Not by my will, but by your will, like Jesus didn't want to go through this terrible death, right? He didn't. He's asking for, like, hey, is there a plan B, a plan C, a plan D? And I'm not saying that, like, Jesus doesn't care about us or anything, but it's very stressful. Talked about, sweat coming down like blood. It might have been blood, but he still said, I'm still going to do your will. Right. This is just very like agonizing. I know what's coming and I know it's going to be absolutely terrible. Right. But we see that we see the moment of Jesus, like, God, give me that plan B. But if you don't, I'm still going to go through with it. Right. So obviously Jesus, Jesus was hungry. Jesus wanted to eat stuff. Jesus didn't want to be fasting, but he was doing the Father's will. He's like, hey, this is what I want to please my Father and do everything for him. Right. So, and yeah, Jesse, that's a good point with verse 14. Jesus would have loved to have gone to a spa. Jesus would have loved to had a hamburger or whatever. He would have loved to have all these things. Jesus, he would have loved to be pampered, right? He was a human being. We would all love that. Like if we got a free ticket to go on a cruise ship for an entire year and bring our families or whatever for free, we would all sign up for it. But if there was like a little fine print on the bottom of like, you must also serve Satan, right? We'd all be, hold on. Like, I would love to go on that cruise ship. I would love to see the Bahamas. I would love to do all these things, but I'm not going to serve Satan. I'm going to worship the one true God, right? We would all be tempted to. And Jesus was the same thing. So yeah, verse 14, that brings it out perfectly.
I also wanted to say that when humans are tempted, I believe the context is about being tempted to sin. What Yahweh's being described as being tempted, it's not for Yahweh to be tempted to sin. It's Yahweh being tempted to judge or to test his patience due to our rebellion or our unfaithfulness or our complaining. And so if he was to give in to his temptation, which is to enforce judgment, like when they were worshiping the golden calf, Yahweh would not have sinned by giving into that temptation. He would have been just for doing that. He's a win-win situation there. I feel like when Elijah says, oh, it's an external temptation, you're in any way, shape, or form now saying that Yahweh could have and was tempted to sin, which is, to me, not true. No way. It's insane. Yahweh is never tempted to sin. It's man that's tempted to sin. Yahweh's tempted in the sense that his patience is being tested with unfaithful, rebellious people. It's like comparing apples to oranges with temptation there.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm just going to take that as a concession. You don't have a lexicon. You talk about 3 stages of temptation, but that's just your assertion. I find it very weird and not based in scholarship. All right. So do you think you can understand how the Trinity is monotheistic without understanding the person being distinction?
I thought this was about Jesus's divinity.
Yeah, Jesus is divine in virtue of having 2 natures. Okay, that where nature is ousia, this is relevant. Do you think you can understand how the Trinity is monotheistic without understanding the person being distinction?
Do I think I can understand the Trinity being monotheistic without understanding the person being distinction? You don't have to have it fully fleshed out to understand it.
Okay, so you don't need these words. Is that what you're saying?
You could just say that there is one God who exists as 3 distinct persons, or one what that exists as 3 who's. I didn't use ousia or being or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
right. Yeah, but the Bible doesn't say what you just said, though, right? That's something the Bible never says God is 1 what and 3 who's.
The Bible doesn't say that Jesus is God by predication either.
Yes, it does. Actually, it does.
It says that Jesus, when you just said that, it doesn't say that.
It does. No, not those very words, but it does in fact teach that. And that, again, I have words that mean predication. You don't actually have words. So, for example, ousia was never used as theologically at all in the Bible anywhere. All right. So do you agree then that for Jesus to have 2 natures, you need to understand the person being distinction?
No, my understanding has nothing to do with Jesus having 2 natures.
Okay, so Jesus can be God but not have 2 natures?
No, my understanding of him having 2 natures has nothing to do with him actually having 2 natures.
What do you mean?
Wait, what? this is what I was talking about. I think even in the last episode, whenever, and I think you guys were even like agreeing with me, whenever you are talking to a Trinitarian about a nature and essence, I swear everyone has a different definition. That's why I never even talk about it. If I'm like, look, let's talk about a Bible verse. Let's exegete it. Let's look at other verses. I'm tired of this like nonsense. Really, you know what I mean?
I even give the Trinitarian his definition of it's three persons in one being. That's fine. If that's what you believe there's three distinct persons sharing the same category or nature or being. Now, with that said, though, you are no longer a monotheist. You can't have it both ways, man. If you're a monotheist, then there's just one person. And if there's more than one person, you're no longer a monotheist. Otherwise, words don't matter. We just put in there a 50 Godhead thing from, any God from any religion and just say, oh, they all share the same essence, and you're a monotheist with your 50 gods. It's like it defeats the very meaning of monotheist.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that, Elijah?
The question that you asked me is, does your understanding depend on, or whatever, Jesus having two natures? My understanding of that doesn't waver or change Jesus actually having two natures.
Okay, so I'm asking about the language. The hypostatic union from the Council of Chalcedon asserts that Jesus is truly man, truly God, the properties of both natures preserved in one person. Okay, so that is using this language. I'm asking you, do you need that in order to understand how Jesus is God?
Do I don't have to fully understand that in order to know that Jesus is God. No.
So then you don't need the doctrine of the hypostatic union.
No, the doctrine of the hypostatic union is obviously shown within Scripture. Somebody understanding.
Dude, you're not answering. You're not answering. I'm going to have to start pressing you now. I need you to give you a yes or no, just like I did. You can qualify, but you have to answer it. You would just cut me off after I said yes or no. I won't do that. You can clarify, but answer it.
Yeah, so someone understanding all of the language in Chalcedon is not necessary for them to know about the hypostatic union. That's outlined in Scripture.
Okay, so you don't need the hypostatic union to know how Jesus is God then?
You don't need the hypostatic. I don't know. I don't understand that question.
All right. So listen, if you don't understand that, then I think you're kind of feigning ignorance here. Of course you appeal to two natures theory. That comes from the Council of Chalcedon, but yet here you are saying you don't really need that. Okay, to know Jesus is God. So that's an evasion. You're welcome to respond to that. I'm going to move on from there.
Well, I mean, in John chapter 1, it says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Oh,
and
he just won the debate.
Became flesh. So, like, somebody could read John chapter 1 and understand that there's this person who was with the Father that took on flesh without ever reading Chalcedon. So,
okay, so let's just.
Yeah, that's crazy. Absolutely wild. See, that's one of the things too. If you get a Trinitarian talking long enough, they're either going to commit a heresy or basically admit they're going to commit a heresy, say that they're modalism, they're modalists, or they are biblical Unitarians,
or they're tritheists. That's a new one that I keep hearing about.
4, so quadrinity. You're one of the 4.
But they are all the same substance, my friend.
Yes, and energy. Yes.
Let's go ahead and debunk that real quick before we move on. So can I share my screen, please? Okay, right here. In the beginning was the Word.
mm-hmm.
Okay, let's look this up in the dictionary. Okay. Come on. It's down here. We're waiting. It's coming. Here we go. Okay. John 1:1. Definition number 3. Does this refer to a person or a personified expression, Elijah?
Well, Jesus is the expressed representation and image of God.
Okay, does it refer to a person like you just said, or does the word logos refer to a personification?
Well, it refers to a person in this verse, yeah.
Okay, so you just disagree with the best Greek English lexicon used by scholars. Yeah, because you're calling it a person,
it says
but
right
it's called...
there. Brother, it says right there, it is the distinctive teaching of the fourth gospel that this divine word took on human form in a
Yes.
historical person that is Jesus. That's
Yeah,
your
that's
source.
it, dude. That's
It says it right
after.
there.
That's after verse 14. We're in verse 1 where it
No,
uses
no,
the
it
word
says it,
logos.
no, in your source.
I
right
know,
there,
I
it
know.
says-
You're not paying attention.
No,
You
no, you
said the
that I was
word.
disagreeing.
You
I'm
said
saying I agree with that part right there. It is the distinctive teaching of the fourth gospel that this divine word took on a human form in a historical
yes,
person that
yeah.
is Jesus.
Okay, and that word, is that word a personification or is it a real a literal person?
That's what your source says. It's a person.
Okay, so listen, you're not tracking probably on purpose. That word is a personification. It does become
All right,
embodied in
pause.
Christ like an attribute.
Let's play a game. So, let's say that the word became a person. Personified expression, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the word wasn't a person before it was personified? Sorry, go for it.
Because this is a wisdom motif. Wisdom is associated with God's attributes, his roles, his divine prerogatives. When the word becomes flesh, that's saying a personified expression of God is embodied in Christ. Okay, so yeah, you called it a person. That's literally not the definition
I was
of
just
the word.
using the words that was on your source that you pulled.
Okay, yeah, no, listen, yeah. When it says the divine word takes on flesh, that divine word is a personified expression. That's what the definition says. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You don't even know how to read that. Yeah, you need to.
You.
No, you don't. It said the word. It defined word, Elijah. The word is a personified expression. Okay, so yeah, but you keep calling it a person, despite the fact it said it's
the source that you brought up.
It's a no, it didn't. It said it's a personified expression. Dude, you're hella ignorant right now. Personified expression, not a real person. Okay, so do you agree that in order for mankind to be redeemed from the curse of the law, Jesus had to die?
I mean, that's the way in which it was fulfilled. Yeah.
Okay, can God die?
Yeah, if he takes on human nature.
God can die if he takes on human nature. All right, so let's go ahead and share my screen again. You need to buy a lexicon, Elijah. Here we go. Ready? So I delivered to you as of first importance what I received, that Christ died. Okay, the definition of die refers to a cease of functions, whether earthly or transcendent. But when it calls God immortal, okay, the only God is immortal, it means impervious to death. Okay, so tell me, how can you be impervious to death if you're able to die by taking on a human nature?
Yeah, so when it's saying, then this is once again, it's talking about Jesus in 1 Timothy 1:17. It's literally talking about Christ. This is talking about his divine nature.
Not answering the question. Answer the question, Elijah. How is it that Jesus can be God and you agree he has to die for salvation, but yet God is impervious to death?
Yeah,
okay, so how is that possible by taking on a human nature?
Okay, so in regards to the divine nature, God cannot die. In regards to the human nature, God can separate that soul from that body, which is death. So that's the way in which God could die. Like, for example, God is impassible. He can't be touched. He can't be seen, as this verse is saying. But in Zechariah chapter 12, verse 10, it says that God is pierced. Right? How would that be possible? In Acts chapter 20, verse 28, it says that God purchased the church with his own blood. How would that be possible?
Yeah, they're metaphors. They're metaphors. You don't, but is Jesus' human flesh God? Is Jesus' human flesh God?
No, the person is
okay,
God.
Right. So it's the flesh that has blood. It's the flesh that was pierced. That's a metaphor, and those are textual variants. Okay. Okay. So here we go.
To clarify one
how
thing.
is it?
Before we go any further, Elijah tried to say that 1 Timothy 1:17 was about Messiah, and I just wanted to confirm and make sure. But from from looking it up, it's about the Father. So I don't know why he thinks it's about the Son. I haven't done my own 1 Timothy 1:17 studies yet, but
Well, you could read the context, and if you want to go with nearest antecedent, it could almost look like it's Jesus. It's kind of ambiguous, but it's more clear when you get to the 6th chapter, because when
Yes.
Christ comes, he's going to show us something,
Mm-hmm.
somebody, the only one that has immortality,
Mm-hmm.
who dwells in a light no one can approach to, who no man has seen. People saw Jesus. But
Right.
this person's the only one with immortality, therefore he's the best candidate for this verse.
Yeah.
So what's interesting though.
I'm surprised Mike didn't jump on that, even though it's not answering his question. It would have been cool if he jumped on that.
Yeah. It's interesting though. My KJV, I like the KJV. I don't really like Alexandrian text, so I go with KJV for Byzantine text. But it says the only wise God, right? So if Jesus dies, he can't be the one that has immortality. So if Jesus is God, is he a stupid God? Because the one with immortality is the only wise God. Kind of an inappropriate sarcasm, but sometimes it's interesting.
You
I apologize.
can't be mortal and immortal at the same time. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, it's a paradox.
I know they played the hypostatic union game, but in some way, shape, or form, the Messiah died, and there is no room for any part of the immortal being to die. However you slice it up, no part of him can die.
Yeah. In one of our previous reviews, a couple back, he was talking about the hand is raised and not raised, right? The thing is, it's different hands, but it is the same subject that is allegedly alive and dead. Therefore, there is no difference in respects. He misrepresented that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to go back. I screwed up. I accidentally clicked it. I had hit the pause button, but my cursor was too high, so we might hear a little bit of this repeating.
And it's muted.
But when it calls God immortal, okay, the only God is immortal, it means impervious to death.
To corrupt.
Okay, so tell me, how can you be impervious to death if you're able to die by taking on a human nature?
Yeah, so when it's saying, then this is once again, it's talking about Jesus in 1 Timothy 1:17. It's literally talking about Christ. This is talking about his divine nature.
Not answering the question. Answer the question, Elijah. How is it that Jesus can be God and you agree he has to die for salvation, but yet God is impervious to death?
Yeah,
okay, so how is that possible by taking on a human nature?
Okay, so in regards to the divine nature, God cannot die. In regards to the human nature, God can separate that soul from that body, which is death. So that's the way in which God could die. Like, for example, God is impassible. He can't be touched. He can't be seen, as this verse is saying. But in Zechariah chapter 12, verse 10, it says that God is pierced. Right? How would that be possible? In Acts chapter 20, verse 28, it says that God purchased the church with his own blood. How would that be possible?
Yeah, they're metaphors. They're metaphors. You don't. But is Jesus' human flesh God? Is Jesus' human flesh God?
No, the person is
okay,
God.
Right. So it's the flesh that has blood. It's the flesh that was pierced. That's a metaphor, and those are textual variants. Okay. Okay. So here we go. I asked you, how is it that when the definition of immortal means you are impervious to death, that Christ can still die? In denial of the definition, you said, well, he dies according to his human nature. So I have a question. Do human natures, can they die apart from persons?
Can human natures die apart from persons?
That's a good one.
So I mean, I would say no.
That's the correct answer, Elijah. Yes, no, natures cannot die apart from persons. Okay, so then when you can say Jesus died, the person died.
In virtue of the human nature, yeah.
Okay, but there we go again. If natures can't die, then you agree that Jesus still died, yes? The person died.
Human nature, yeah.
Okay, listen, do natures die apart from persons?
So the person who has the nature, that soul of that person separates from that body. So it is proper to say that Jesus died.
Okay. Okay.
But
So
the way he dies is in virtue of that.
all right, I'm going to ask it
2
again. You
minutes
didn't.
left.
You didn't answer. Do natures die apart from persons?
I mean, like, animal is not a person, their nature dies. So if that's your question, then obviously you would have natures that die apart from persons.
Oh,
I'm
oh
assuming
my gosh, dude. Okay, can the nature die apart from a person? Why are you avoiding the question? Do you know what a nature is? Define nature, Elijah. What's
the
nature?
principle of action.
Okay, can a principle of action die apart from a person?
No, the person is going to have that rational nature that you're
All right,
speaking.
notice how he will not answer the question, right? You just did a second ago, but now you're trying to backtrack. Natures don't die apart from persons. You know it. You know that. Okay, so then Jesus, the person, died, yes?
Yeah,
Okay, so is Jesus a divine person or human person or both?
he's a divine person.
Okay, did the divine person died?
In virtue of the human nature, yeah.
Wait, wouldn't that be like heresy though?
What do you mean?
If someone is asking you if Jesus is a divine, a human, or both, and you say that he's a divine, like that has to be heresy then, right?
Nope. All right, so
But
Jesus only has one hypostasis, and that's the hypostasis of the divine Son. That's the only answer they can give. And that's where the contradiction lives.
But you got to say he's human though too. That's the whole
Well,
controversy of the hypostatic union.
allegedly, he's fully human, but his humanity doesn't have a hypostasis like us. His hypostasis is in the divine Son. So the divine Son takes on humanity like the nature minus the hypostasis, or else Christ would be two persons. And that's where the contradiction lives. God experiences death because all experiences and actions terminate in the hypostases. They end in the hypostases. It's always the hypostases that experiences and acts. So the one who cannot die did something which his nature did not permit.
Okay, so Jesus died and didn't die.
No, so when you're
Okay,
talking,
okay. Is the person who died a different person than the one who can't die?
no, so when you're
So
saying
then the person died. All right, Elijah, this is fairly basic, man. Come on. All right.
yeah, it is. It's basic Christian theology. And
No,
you're
no,
asking me
no, no.
questions about
Listen,
basic Christian theology.
you're
So yes,
ref-
I'll answer your question. So yes, Jesus died. The divine person died in virtue of his humanity. The body
So the divine person died. Because see, I feel like they always tell me the divine person did not die because God can't die. The human died. But now Elijah's saying that the divine person did die. See, that's what I mean. You get them talking long enough, right? You get them talking long enough, they're going to commit heresy.
and soul that he created for himself, that soul separated from that body. It belongs to a divine person, so the divine person dies in virtue of the humanity. He does not die in virtue of the divinity. That can never die. That is immortal. That can never be seen.
Okay, gotcha. Now give me this. Just give this to me, okay? Can a nature, the principle, all right, can it die apart from the person?
This is like the 6th time you asked me that question.
So give
Yeah,
me a
'cause you
direct
keep
answer,
avoiding it.
Elijah. Yes or no?
Can the nature die apart from the person? Sure, no.
No. Okay, so then when you're saying, yeah, he dies in virtue of the human nature, that's a nothing burger. You're trying to index the predicate dying to a nature. That's a fallacy of refutation. Natures don't die.
Hey, Mike, real quick, can you make a t-shirt that says that's a nothing burger? I think it would sell out fast. Because he said it a few times already.
Persons
that's-
die.
Huh?
That's a hit.
It's a nothing burger.
So you believe that Jesus, the same person, both died and didn't die, correct?
No, so the thing that you need to
You need to answer the question. I have 30 seconds, Elijah. So you
Yes,
agree that the same person who died is not a different person than the one who didn't die?
yeah, obviously.
Okay, so then that's a contradiction, P and not P. Jesus
Not a
died and didn't die.
contradiction.
How much time do I have?
So
That was time.
you
I'll
know,
give you guys a minute
Yeah,
to close it
no,
out.
okay,
that's
can I-
that's good. We'll
so can
stop
I
right
answer?
there.
Can I answer life?
No, that's it. We just went through it.
Right,
Well,
he
then
just-
I get a response as well.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
No one
I'll
is
give you
saying
guys.
that.
I'll put it on depending on how long it goes, but I'll try to keep it down to a minute.
No,
and a half.
he just makes a statement at the end. But
Yeah.
no one is saying that Jesus died and did not die in the same sense. And that would be what was required for a contradiction, which is what I was showing in the rebuttal. So Jesus dies in the sense that he dies is in virtue of his humanity. He does not die in virtue of his divinity. We do not believe that the divine nature got hung on a cross. We do not believe that the divine nature got pierced in his hands and his feet. All that happens in virtue of his divinity. The one
Yeah.
divine person has both of these natures. So when
Yeah.
he's trying to say that Jesus died and did not die, those are in different senses. Therefore, it would be impossible to be a contradiction.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So can I say something?
yeah. Go ahead.
The continual thing that Elijah is doing to Metaphysics Mike, I feel like this is what who's this guy in the middle? Not a mediator, but a moderator.
Yeah.
This is where the moderator, in my opinion, the moderator, when he sees a bad faith argument continuously happening, or intellectual dishonesty continuously happening, or someone continuously moving the goalpost, he needs to step in and say, either you don't have an answer or you need to make a stance, like take a stance and stop changing it by pretending like nothing was proven. Okay, that's a bad faith argument. And that's where the moderator needs to step in, because to me, that's not right. You can't be stonewalling, can't be gaslighting. And it's just frustrating when the moderator does nothing. It's like a referee with the blindfold on. What's the point? Like, you're not even looking at the game. You're
Yeah.
just looking at the clock. Anybody can look at a clock. Sorry, I get worked up.
No, you're cool. I know it is hard because like whenever I moderate debates, it's hard because I don't want to sound, because every moderator has a bias side, right? The moderator and Elijah, they're cool with each other. That's on God Logic's channel. He's a Trinitarian. Him and Mike even had a debate, right? So the channel, the moderator, and the interlocutor are all against Mike, right? So it is a little hard for the moderator. I kind of see where he's coming from, because we all want Elijah to answer in a certain way, but then every other Trinitarian is going to want Mike to answer in their specific way. So how it's kind of hard. I think he's doing a better job than most.
I guess where I'm coming from is if when there's basic, simple principles being established, then those basic, simple principles can't be suddenly, oh, what do you mean? I don't know what you're saying. It's like, you either know what I'm talking about or you don't. And if you don't, then why are you here?
Right.
Because this is basic Trinitarian foundational principles, I don't know. I get it when it's like the gray area, but when it's like, hey, is the sky blue? What do you mean? Okay. How many times do you have to ask the question before the moderator should say, hey, you're wasting his time. You're wasting everyone's time. Answer, is the sky blue? If you don't know, just say that. But to say, oh, you didn't prove anything, that to me is like a cheap shot,
Right.
How about this? Is Jesus one or two persons? One person. Is he fully man and fully God? Yes. Did the entirety of Jesus' person die or just part? Right there is a problem. That's going to make them squirm. Right there. Because if the entirety of his person died, that's going to consist of both natures. If only part of his person died, you divide the natures. Or you can just say half of him.
What I don't understand,
Then he won't be fully. Go ahead.
what I don't understand about most Trinitarians, okay, I can't tell you what Elijah would say or any other scholar out there, but the average Trinitarian will tell you that the human nature died on the cross. But then they'll say that the mere man or any mere man cannot die for your sins because it has to be the divine being that died for you. So I go back to the cross and I say, did the divine being die for you? The one that you say is required to die. No, he didn't die. He can't die. His human nature died. So the quote mere man nature of Yeshua died for you, and that's the part that you reject. So you got nothing,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. Am I talking in circles here? I'm trying to be crystal clear.
Yeah,
You're good.
it's I feel like this is pretty typical with Mike's cross-ex is they just never want to answer, and I feel bad because Mike is just Mike. I'm not saying he's not a debater. I think Mike's a good debater, but Mike is definitely someone who honestly just wants to have that good conversation. I remember he was in the comments yesterday and he even quoted like, look, I was just trying to have this kind conversation that's to say that Jesus is all powerful. Then Elijah just goes with that,
This
but
is where, like Elijah said this like 5 minutes before the end of the discussion. Elijah said, this is basic Christian theology. And I'm looking at some comments here because I really am excited to see so many people on here. And Kingdom in Context, Sean says that it pretty much is Gnosticism. And I agree. A lot of the stuff in mainstream Christianity is not in the Bible. It's based off of outside sources like Gnosticism. So it makes me wonder, is mainstream Christianity a completely different religion? When you pop the hood, I mean, if you just look at it from the outside, yeah, we all follow the Messiah. We're all brothers and sisters in Messiah. But when you pop the hood, you're like, wait a second, dude, this is a completely different model. This is a different car. The very foundation is different. The axle's different. The frame of the car is different. It's not the same car just because the body looks the same. But that's just something I've been thinking about, praying about. Yes, I believe that you can be saved if you're Trinitarian. I'm just saying, when we pop the hood, it's like, man, we're on two different paths right now. We're thinking way different,
yeah.
Oh, Mike says,
Well,
yeah, it's a different religion.
It's even funny too because if everybody was a Trinitarian, you know how we get blacklisted for not believing in the Trinity.
Yeah.
If everybody did believe in the Trinity, then the next move would be we're gonna blacklist different Trinitarians. You're gonna have the monarchals, the Latins, the social, the economics, all like, oh no, they have a false Trinity. We have the true Trinity, right? Where people say that you have the wrong Jesus, you have a human Jesus, but we have a God Jesus because only God can die for our sins. And it's that argument, you know what I mean? But it would literally be the same thing. Like, I know, Jesse, you're like, but that's literally it, though.
And that's where I say, look, my faith is rooted into the first century faith, which is what? A Jewish faith. And I'm looking at the Torah and the prophets, the Tanakh. That's my foundation. The writings, the New Testament lines up with the Tanakh. It's not like, hey, start over, rewrite the whole story. Here's a whole new idea and this other thing's abolished. No, it flows. The one true Elohim, the one true Yahweh, the one individual that you saw in Genesis is the same one Yahweh in the book of Revelation. If you have two different models, which I've seen, I kid you not, Craig, what's his name? That scholar.
Correct. William Lane Craig?
William Lane Craig, being interviewed about the Trinity, his words, not mine, says that the Old Testament people did not see and or know of a triune Godhead. They didn't know about the Trinity. In other words, there's no Trinity in the Old Testament, according to William Lane Craig. Okay, that kind of goes back to what I was saying. It's a completely different story, different formula, different foundation, according to their axiom, their perspective of things. My argument is it's one story. So if you have the old and new contradicting each other, you better start from scratch and figure out why. it is not the Bible's fault.
It's
I'm
it's
done.
weird. It's weird too because whenever I do hear Trinitarian scholars, well, anyone who is a Trinitarian actually say that yes, the Trinity wasn't, they didn't believe in that, blah blah blah. Oh, okay, but see, they had the existence of the Father. They had the existence of the Spirit. They knew God's Spirit was always around, always acting. Where did we go from this? And I mean, I know we all know the answer to this, but how do you go from the Holy Spirit acting as a power force energy that's being described in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament, to now being a literal bona fide person? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that was changed, because if that was the same understanding that all the Jews had at the time, they would all have been binitarians in the Old Testament. Jesus comes to reveal that, hey, I was actually there the whole time, but I was behind the scenes.
I was the angel, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yes. Ah, got you. Yeah.
I was that rock that followed you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. But they would have all been binitarians. It wouldn't be a monotheistic idea that, and I know they still call themselves monotheists, but it wouldn't have been that. They would have all been binitarians.
My friend, they interview Jews in Jerusalem all the time, but there was one I watched where they asked a Jew, if Judaism was gone tomorrow and you wanted to worship God, would you start going to a Muslim mosque or a Christian church? Every single Jew says I would go to the mosque because they're monotheist, and that they would avoid the church because they believe in polytheism and they have like multiple gods and they are really into Mary. And so then you wonder, like, if a Jew is willing to, and in a hypothetical, if a Jew is willing to fellowship with the Muslims at a mosque before he steps into a Christian church, you start to ask yourself, how far off has the church gone to where the Jew doesn't even want to have nothing to do with you? I mean, you should look Jewish. Your roots are Jewish. Your Messiah's Jewish. Your Old Testament's Jewish. The 12 disciples are Jewish. Why don't you look a little Hebrew,
So, John, just because you're bringing it up, I actually was going over this book again. It's what every Christian needs to know about the Jewishness of Jesus. This is a fantastic book. And, this kind of goes back to kind of like what you said, understanding the roots of Judaism when you're looking into Christianity. It makes it so much more beautiful. And, I actually feel bad for a lot of people when you don't start in Genesis and you read the Bible. You start in John, you start in Paul's letters, you hear what the church fathers say, and then you slowly read the Old Testament. If you read the Old Testament, you're going to get an understanding of how the sacrificial system works. How things would atone for you, who does it. You would understand this agency concept. You would see this all throughout. What's up?
Will you hold that book up once more while you're speaking for someone on TikTok?
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
You'll understand the sacrifices. You'll understand strict monotheism. Go
yeah.
on.
You will understand all these things, and then when you come to the New Testament, it like makes sense and it clicks, and you understand who this Messiah character is. It will be it all goes smoothly, right? Even when you're reading Paul's letters, there's not going to be any confusing things there. Some things you might have to kind of go back to the Tanakh and study it out. It'll like make more sense. But too many people are already kind of honestly corrupted with the church fathers, with their church, how you are supposed to understand it. And then they give you the Bible.
I mean, a good example that's secular is our Bill of Rights and our constitutional rights. The Second Amendment, right? If you don't have the right paradigm, if you don't understand history as to why we have the right to bear arms, then you suddenly make arguments that you hear from from certain sides that say, "Oh, it's for hunting." And we don't hunt our food anymore. So why do you need this type of weapon? When really the Second Amendment was to protect yourself from a tyrannical government. but you got to come into it knowing that governments can become tyrannical and that we're protecting ourselves from that. Again, I'm just using that as an example that most people don't know that, and they don't understand the Second Amendment because of that. And so they think it's just for hunting rights or something. If you go into the New Testament with the wrong paradigm, the wrong presuppositions, the wrong axiom, you can read anything because there's so much poetic sayings and so much in there. Like the Catholics are saying, eat my flesh, drink my blood. Oh yeah, that's the Eucharist. Like what? And there's so many examples like that that you can go running with and start a whole denomination because you started on the wrong foot. So it's so important to come into it with the foundation of the Tanakh. That's what a Berean is. A Berean tests the New Testament with the scriptures, the Torah and the prophets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So quick little shout out to Mike. Mike, absolutely, man. Any way we can help spread this out, anyone watching, anyone who is trying to build your apologetics, I'm not going to say who, but there's actually a content creator who is this individual has over 4,000 followers. This individual is coming to biblical Unitarianism, and I'm hoping to have this person on my channel just to kind of do a little interview with them, and hoping that this person can kind of reach and understand it. But it's doing these reviews, going over what's being said, because you can watch it, right? But I also think it's important to break everything up. Let's slow it down. Let's watch it. Let's take care of it. Kind of be delicate with it to really go over what's actually being at here. So
it's like going back and watching the tape of a football game. You get to rewind it, pause it, look at all the positions, and see what went wrong.
Dude, I played basketball in high school, and I missed watching film of like who's open. And I remember I was actually just so infatuated with Phil Jackson's triangle offense, and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
it's hilarious because nobody else has had any success with that ever. But it's so amazing when you break it down and look at it. Like John, your perspectives, I appreciate everything that you have thrown into this. Jesse, you too, you pulling up the Greek and looking that up. Even that John 5:19, that was surprising because you even called it. You're like, hey, if there's a definite article there, it does mean everything. Wait, it doesn't. That's something else that we can put in our arsenal to really do this. So
yeah.
Well, that was it for the cross exam. I believe, I don't know, was there an open discussion after this?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay. That will be on the next episode, possibly tomorrow, right?
That sounds fair with me.
John?
Yeah, say the name again. I read Sean's comment here about Jordan and Pippen. I got distracted. Sorry, I'm from Chicago, so I'm all. Go ahead. What was the question?
Well, Kingdom and Sean's kind of young. I don't know if Sean knows this or not, but there was another three-peat, with Horace Grant. Sean, there's a guy named Horace Grant. Sean, okay, Horace Grant was pretty good. Can't just Sean's young. He's a youngin. He doesn't know the first three-peat.
Yeah.
I love Sean. But yeah, okay, we'll do another episode going over the live discussion. John, he's okay. So Sean knows. He went to the Magic. That was an interesting series there. Okay, so Sean knows a little bit.
Yeah,
Sean knows.
we all watched The Last Dance, so we're all pretty much caught up.
Yeah, the only thing I learned from The Last Dance
is that he took it personally.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, he was a killer. He was a killer. But okay, cool. We'll go on next episode. We're gonna go over the open discussion, and then if you guys can subscribe to John Lawson Kingdom Seekers, subscribe to Jesse God's Friend Let the Bible Speak 8250. Both these guys are on YouTube and TikTok. And seriously, thanks guys for taking the time out of your schedules to jump on for this. I appreciate it. Yep. And I'll see you guys possibly tomorrow. Shalom.
Shalom, y'all.